Hello and welcome. My name is Nate Cap, and thank you for taking the time to make it to my mental power presentation. And also thank you to Chris and Leslie and Will for putting on another powerful FUNL conference and also for inviting me back. This is my second time back, and it's a real honor to be part of these conferences, and I'm really looking forward to delivering some very critical information with you guys here today. So please just keep in mind that this whole presentation is in a very short, condensed form, okay? It's a very short explanation of something that's so much bigger. So as you see here in this photo of the iceberg, the little tip of the iceberg is equivalent to what my whole presentation is going to cover, versus the rest of the topic, the rest of the iceberg that most people don't see. That's what's waiting to be discovered. That's what's waiting for you to go down and discover for yourself. So this is a refinement process, all right? There really isn't anything new that's going to be uncovered in this presentation here today. It might be new to your experience, but it's about becoming conscious of what already is. Okay, you already have all the information within you. You just need the right knowledge to unlock that information. Okay, and that is the understanding, to become aware, to become conscious. So I want people to question everything that's being said here today in this talk. Not because you want to try to prove me wrong, but to try to prove to yourself what you already know. Again, the information is already in you. You already know this information. You just need the right knowledge to unlock in order to understand that information. So the goal of this presentation explores the profound connection between mental power and the forces that shape our reality, both seen and unseen. So it's dealing with the occult. So it examines the role of mentalism and how thoughts and beliefs directly influence the world around us, followed by an exploration of sorcery and magic as tools, as necessary tools for manipulating these forces, whether that be for good or for bad, to achieve personal and collective transformation. So that's just a basic overview of what this whole presentation is going to be about. Now, the main topics for this talk that are on the table are mental power, mentalism, sorcery and magic, government. I'm going to break down government and go a lot further into the etymology, which is going to really help us find the deeper connections that are going to be revealed more in the second half of the presentation. I'm going to talk about the rota, which is tied in with the Wheel of Fortune, the tarot card. And I'm going to talk about the Great Wheel, the Sacred Garden, the hijacked plantation. And then I'm going to talk about your mental power as a solution at the end of the presentation. Okay? So I'm just going to jump right into the title for this talk and break down the derivation of the words that I'm using. So the word mental comes from the Latin mens, which is the genitive mentis. And I really want people to pay attention to these words, mens and mentis, as I go through the rest of this information. So the word mens in Latin means mind. It means intellect or thought. Okay, so very simple. Now, the word power comes from the Old French power, derived from the Latin potere, meaning to be able or to have the capacity. This links to potis, meaning able or capable, and the related verb pose, meaning to be able, which ultimately comes from the Proto-Indo-European root poti, meaning Lord or Master. So think about how Lord or Master are associated with this word power. Okay, so think about the word master. What does it mean? What does a master represent? A master represents one who has perfected their craft, right? Someone who is ultimate at what they do. And so that's one way to understand how master or lord is associated with power. All right. So at its core, the term power has always been tied to the concept of capability, control, and authority. And those last two words, control and authority, these are the words that most people of the world typically associate with power, because most people have the social Darwinistic worldview of man being the ruler. This idea that the most ruthless gets to rule over everyone else because they have the control, they have the power. And so people see that as power. People see man as the authority, as power. Okay, and there's so much more to it than that. So in a more abstract sense, power refers to the ability to do something or achieve a particular effect. This could include physical power, mental power, or the ability to bring about change into reality. Okay, and that's what I'm really getting at right there, because it's about an idea moving into manifestation. Now, the working definition of mental power is the ability of the mind to control thoughts, emotions, and actions with focus and intent to achieve goals and influence outcomes. It requires discipline and the ability to make decisions, this is about free will choice, and solve problems more effectively. Okay? So essentially, the mental power is the ability to gain and harness clarity from the higher faculties of the mind, being the thoughts, the imagination, being memory, being reason, and doing so for the reason of focus, being able to analyze things better, and being able to understand certain challenges. This is about problem solving, okay? That's what mental power is about. It's about breaking down the barriers of ego. It's about rising out of the mire of ignorance and laziness. So it's really important to understand that mental power cannot truly be understood without understanding mentalism. Okay, this is the very first Hermetic principle, and it's first for a reason, okay? Because mentalism states the all is mind, the universe is mental. So in other words, the entire universe and everything in it, both the physical and non-physical realms, are essentially mental in nature. It suggests that the fundamental substance of reality is consciousness or mind. Okay? So this principle suggests that everything in our reality, the things, events, circumstances, and states, must first exist in the mind before it can manifest in the world around us. So simply put, what happens in the mind, the plane of causality, okay, where everything begins, what happens in the mind creates what happens in the physical world, which is the plane of effects, where the idea manifests, okay? So just think about the wheel, or think about an axe, all right? Where did an axe begin and how did it become what it is? I would just say that there is definitely, proof of how the axe evolved, but I would just say from the beginning, man discovered a stone that had a sharp edge that he could hold, and realized that the stone having the sharp edge could make incisions or cut or shape into another stone or a stick or another piece of wood. And then with the mind, he could see that if this stone was sharper and could be held better, that the shaping could be better of whatever he is shaping or whatever he's cutting. And therefore, man started to polish the stone to make it sharper and to shape it better to hold. And then over time, man needed better leverage and more control over the cuts. So then the stone was hafted onto a stick, onto a very thick, a foot-long stick. So man could have more leverage and more control over the cut, over shaping. So that's the development from the idea to the manifested result of the axe. Okay? So it's a very powerful way to understand reality and how things come to be. So mentalism can't be understood without understanding the will. So the will in mentalism, the will is the mechanism through which mentalism operates. It is the central force that directs thought, emotion, and action. So it's basically the mover of the thought to the emotion, and then the thought and the emotion are directing towards the action. So the will is the intent. It's the intentional force that shapes reality, like the axe. Okay? So now the mind is the source of power, mental power. But the will is the system, it's the tool that turns that power into action, into manifestation. And the two forces that use the will to bring about the desired outcome are sorcery and magic. So sorcery is it's using the lowercase w, will, which is used for personal gain, which is about doing my work rather than the great work, doing what I want to do for me, doing what I want to do because this is what I want to see done in the world, regardless of whether anybody else is negatively affected or not. So sorcery is the science and art of influencing change to occur in accordance with the ego-driven will, which is why it is the lowercase w will. So the true purpose of sorcery lies in its dual nature of consciousness. So this is about living dualistically, which is the capacity to manipulate discord and opposition within another individual, driven by ego and the pursuit of control. And this is about keeping people in dualism because most people are unconscious of what's really going on in the world, and definitely unconscious of what's going on internally, because most people don't do any real internal work, and sorcerers are conscious enough to understand that they can control those who are not conscious and keep them in a internal divide. And as long as they can keep them in an internal divide or an internal war within themselves, they can wreak havoc with discord, which is disharmony, which is, disorientation, to keep people disoriented within themselves so they don't have an understanding of what's really going on because they're confused. They don't have any real understanding of how they actually operate. And so the sorcerer is living in fear, and they're projecting that dualistic consciousness of fear into others to keep them in fear and to keep them not only in fear within themselves, but to keep them in fear of other people, their brothers and sisters, even their family members. Okay? And so sorcery is about keeping people divided and, directing that energy of fear, that opposition into other people for control. Now, magic, on the other hand, is about understanding that the will is used for evolution. That's what real magic is. So, magic with the letter K is about understanding that this is dealing with magic of knowledge, which is the pursuit of truth. That's why the K is added to magic in this form. This isn't dealing with the magic of, pulling a bunny out of a hat on the street. This is about doing magic because there is a divine connection. There is a divine calling. There is a yearning to connect with nature and do what is correct. And the letter K is also the 11th letter of the alphabet. And I associate that with two pillars, which is, magic is about doing the work between dark and light, or the sacred feminine energy and the sacred masculine energy, in order to synthesize in the middle, which is what, bringing about union is about. This is about unity. This is about equilibrium. It's balance. So the true purpose, I'm getting ahead of myself. The science and art of influencing change to occur in accordance with the will. That's magic. So the true purpose of magic is triune in consciousness, which is the ability to think, feel, and act in alignment with the will, the unifying the self internally and then influencing others. Okay, so magic is all about doing the great work all the way through. Doing it internally first and then helping others, because this is when someone knows that the right thing to do is to help others raise, from their base level of consciousness into higher forms of consciousness, which is about unifying. Now, I want to make it very clear that, magic and sorcery there should be a synthesis of how you learn both of these. It's important to learn both of them, but to understand magic truly is about evolving from sorcery, because sorcery is about ego. It's about materialism. It's about control. And we have to graduate out of control. We have to learn to work with each other. That's magic. Okay, that's even, you could even say that's a miracle. If we could just learn how to work with each other without controlling each other. So a practitioner's mental focus, intention, and beliefs influence both the internal and external world. So sorcery is a consuming power over others, okay, to consume other people's power in order to maintain control over them. And magic is the generator of power to restore and maintain autonomy, to, move in the direction of evolution and freedom. That's what magic is about. So The philosopher Victor Segno, who wrote the book Law of Mentalism, states the will governs the amount of mental force that shall be produced, and also the direction and distance it shall travel. Like the rudder of a ship, it guides and directs the course of our thoughts. So I really want you to pay attention to the words that he's using here, okay? So think about the fact that the will governs. So this word govern, I think a lot of people know that govern means control, and you are correct. Govern comes from the Latin verb gubernare, which means to control. Okay? Now, where a lot of people don't agree is that the noun forming suffix ment means mind. Okay? So it does mean mind, because when you understand this suffix as a compound word that can join other words in order to state a condition of or state of, because ment comes from the Latin noun mentis or mens. Where did we hear that earlier? I don't know, from the word mental, which is the condition of or state of, which means mind. Okay, a lot of people don't agree with this. It doesn't matter. It's because they're under mind control, and that's because they have an appeal to authority, which is government. So government means mind control. So anybody who doesn't understand that government means mind control is literally under mind control. But to be fair, I think it's important to go much further into what government actually means. Now, the word government has a very, very deep etymology, and it goes so much further back than what I'm sharing. But it's important to understand that if we go back to Greek, the Greek kubernon, it means to steer, to direct, or helmsman or pilot. Okay, so a helmsman or a pilot is one who steers, one who directs. Well, what do they direct? What do they steer? So this becomes the Latin gubernator, and gubernator is a steersman or pilot with the root gubern, meaning rudder or helm. Well, what's a rudder or what's a helm? A helm, if you look at this ancient Roman relief, this statue that's carved into the wall, this is a Roman pilot, a Roman helmsman who is steering a ship with a rudder. And the rudder is the part that's in the water that is directing the way that the ship goes, the direction that it's going. Okay? So this is about understanding Plato's ship of state metaphor from his book, The Republic. Okay, and this is well over 2,000 years ago. And this is a metaphor of what government is. And so the words that we're using for government come from this metaphor. And it's important to understand what that really means, because it's about mind. You know, think about, okay, we're going to look at the other etymology, which is government comes from the Latin gubernare, and this is a more defined version of gubernare, which means to control the direction of a ship, to steer, from the root guber, meaning rudder. Okay, so what ship is being steered in government? You know, what literal ship? And, you know, people do mental gymnastics around this. They're not thinking about it metaphorically or allegorically. So it's about understanding that the mind is directed by the helm. Okay? This is about understanding the will. Okay? To control the direction. Okay? And this direction in the law of man, man being the sorcerer who is controlling others, is using methods to control people in a system of control, which is, you can think of it like the political system. Well, if you are the one in control, you can direct with the rudder in the mind of whether people go more to the left wing or the right wing. Okay? Because if you understand the mind, you can direct them any direction you want. You're the helmsman. You're at the helm with the rudder, directing it wherever you want it to go, directing the minds, directing the people wherever you want them to go. That's control. That's mind control. Okay? So that's external control as well. Now, the goal is to have internal control, internal government, not external government. Okay? So this word control is very, very powerful and very important to understand, because control comes from the Latin contra, meaning against, and rotulis, meaning a roll or a scroll. So control comes from rotary, which comes from the Latin word rota, meaning wheel. So rota means rotation, to rotate, and it's the rotation of the wheel. Well, what is it? What does that really mean? So I'm bringing in this tarot card to help us deal with this, to help us understand this a lot further, because in the Wheel of Fortune card, you have the acronym, the directional word rota on the wheel. Okay? And this is a very powerful card of divination. If anybody studies tarot, they know how powerful this card is, how much you can draw from this one particular card. So rota is on the bottom of the wheel, the left of the wheel, the top, the north, and then the right. So you have this, south to east to north to west, okay? The rotation. And the control of sorcery is an external control, and the control of magic is an internal control. So what steers the wheel? What controls the wheel? So we have to understand these two forces that are controlling this wheel within us, okay? And so the methods of sorcery, there's many, many methods, okay? But I really honed in on these particular methods because I think these really are so important to extrapolate on. And, just because of time, I don't have time to really get into all of them. But these are some of the most important methods of sorcery that I feel need to be looked at and addressed. So the first one is the alteration of the perception of time, which is the obfuscation of the experience of time. And in people, they're confused because of the obfuscation of time. People are very confused internally, and therefore they're easier to be manipulated. They're easier to be fed a perception of time, because if time seems like it's going by fast, it's because the entertainment industry is doing a really good job when they need to, okay? And then we have to understand that if time is going by really slow, or seems to be going by really slow, it's mostly because the news is projecting all this horrific information into people's minds at all times, keeping them in a state of hopelessness where they want time to speed up. And when anybody wants time to speed up, their perception of time feels like it's going by really slow. Okay, so keeping people in this hopeless, slow, perception. And, this is why people are very, very, they want more, they want someone to do something about it. That's why they want the government to step in and do something, because they don't want to go through these horrific things anymore. They don't want to see these things. And so that's what creates more of an outcry for more safety measures and more control ultimately. So then there is the cycle repetition, which is the endless mental loop, keeping people in a, work, eat, sleep, repeat, repetition, okay, in that loop, keeping them in that loop because they don't really understand what's going on. They're not conscious. And so they are just going through this endless loop, and they're in a state of psychosis. They're completely apart from reality. They don't understand what's really going on, and therefore they can just stay in a really perfect rhythm for a sorcerer, because a sorcerer is feeding on that endless rhythm of their energy. This is where it's soaking in their energy, and they don't even know that their energy is being used to perpetuate this control system. And then this leads to chaos magic. And one of the ways that chaos magic is performed is through the Hegelian dialectic, which is known as the thesis, antithesis, and synthesis. And most people understand this as problem, reaction, solution, or it's also been referred to as chaos, confusion, opportunity. So this is where there is an event that takes place that is typically bad, and people, they're in a state of chaos, and therefore, or there is a state of chaos as a result of the event. And then whether that's manufactured or it's manipulated or not. And then there's an outcry. There's confusion amongst the people. They want someone to step in and do something, typically government, mostly government. And then, of course, the sorcerer can come in as the good guy, whether that's a puppet or, some kind of face that they can show the public who is the good guy. And now they can, bring in more control measures because there's an opportunity to do so. And then there's the manipulation of fate and free will, which is giving people the false choice to, vote for their next master or the next president, and thinking that that will make a better change in the world, when really government is always the winner in that case. Okay. And, because the sorcerer knows who's going to be in there. Okay. They understand that. And also just think about the word rota as rotation, but it's 4 letters. Rota is the rotation every 4 years of a new master. Okay. So it's right in the card. It's telling you that they're just rotating a new master every 4 years. And then there's the primal fear that sorcery really preys on, which is the abandonment primal fear. There's multiple primal fears, but abandonment is one of the biggest ones because it's so layered. But the main part that I want to share is that the sun is what we are so connected to because it has warmth, it has light, it's what brings nutrition. And when it leaves us seemingly in the, fall and into the winter, we have a deep primal fear because of, darkness and predators and all these types of things, because we lose light, we lose warmth, and we don't know if the sun's going to come back or not. We're only hoping that it does. And the sorcerers know this. They understand this psychology. They understand how people feel in this way, because remember, there is a day cycle of the sun and an annual cycle, and also a great year cycle. But they know how to fill in as a they know how to fill in for the sun. They have figured out how to fill in for the sun. When the sun leaves, they managed to manipulate a solar messiah. And that solar messiah is who people turn to, give them some kind of comfort when the sun leaves. And the sorcerers have also created world leaders, presidents, who are proxies for the sun when it leaves to, give us some kind of safety or comfort when the sun leaves. And then that extrapolates down to the rest of government, which is, giving us this idea that we're all good because we got warmth, we got safety measures, we got control during the winter to, keep the roads good, and all this types of, mind control that they do to keep us under this solar control system, okay? And it's a very dark part of the solar control system, and it keeps getting darker and darker. So we have to really pay attention to that particular primal fear. Now, with magic, there's the chronomancy, and chronomancy is the symbolism of time. So you have chronos, which is time, and mancy, meaning divination. So it's a divination of time. This is all about the magic of alignment. Okay, this is the art of aligning to the cycles, like the moon, like the sun, like the planets and the stars, and even, here within ourselves. It's about understanding the tarot deck or the runes in order to know when is the right time to act. And then you have the spire ritual. And the spire ritual, this is something I talk about all the time, which is the syncing the will with truth, because the spire ritual is all about the unfoldment of the soul to the central point, to the truth. And this is about the alignment to natural law. The spire ritual is an unfoldment of ourselves orienting to the cosmos. This is a way for us to have clarity and to have something to aim for. And it's also about cycle refinement. Okay, so when you're using the Wheel of Fortune, you're refining yourself to the centrally defined connection to the one great spirit, which is the X in the middle of the Wheel of Fortune. And then you have the karmic insight and healing, which is essentially the shadow work, doing the necessary shadow work of understanding how to do retrospect within the self and understand where you went wrong and why things are happening the way they are. Because karma is all about what goes around comes around, and why things are happening. We have to be able to look at the problem in order to heal from that problem. And then there's the cycle of knowledge and time, which is about preserving for progeny and posterity. And that's about passing down information, passing down knowledge and wisdom to future generations through cycles to keep this wheel moving through time, so that way people have a fighting chance to evolve, to move on and sharpen themselves to become their better version. And also there is the orienting to cycles, which is aligning the will to the cosmos. And this is what I talked about with aligning the self to the hemispheres of the earth, the brain hemispheres to the earth hemispheres, in alignment with the rising sun to orient the self, and then to understand alchemically going from the southern hemisphere, the dark, to the light being the northern hemisphere, in order to raise up out of darkness, out of ignorance, and understand your responsibility to reconnect in nature by orienting the self to the cosmos, to the sun, to the moon, to the stars. Okay? So love is the driver. Okay, this is agape love, the highest form of love. This is the real driver of magic, and fear is the driver of sorcery. Now, again, you have to learn to synthesize between the two, okay? Because if you don't understand sorcery, then magic is very lopsided. You're really not going to get anywhere with magic. It might as well just be magic without the K. But to be a sorcerer, you do have to understand magic, because it's all magic. All of this is magic, but it's lowercase w will magic for sorcery, because it's dualistic. It's keeping ourselves apart and divided and not united. And that's what I'm trying to do, is unite us. I'm uniting myself, and I'm trying to help other people unite. So sorcery and magic are opposing forces that govern cycles, fate, and transformation, both within and beyond the self, harnessing the power of the will to control the flow of energy and shape the course of events. So this Wheel of Fortune card is very important in correspondence working with the zodiac, especially in this orientation that you see here. Okay, so the zodiac and the Wheel of Fortune are the great wheel. And the zodiac is also known as the wheel of animals. And this is all a solar science, but of course it's preserving lunar and stellar science as well. So just want to keep that in mind. Now, another 4-letter acronym in this Wheel of Fortune is Arat. And Arat it means to cultivate or grow. Well, what are you cultivating or what are you growing? Where do you typically cultivate anything or grow anything? Well, most people associate that with the garden. And this symbol that you see over here on the right, with the circle with the top half being light and the bottom half being dark, this is the symbol of mind, because the circle is infinite, and that is the boundary conditions of the mind. And the top part is the light, which is all about corresponding to the earth, the terrestrial corresponding to the celestial, because it's about understanding the elements of our world and how that corresponds to mind. Okay, so earth, water, earth, dark, and night are associated with the sacred feminine at the bottom. And then the top half is associated with the sacred masculine, being day, light, fire, and air. Okay, so this is dealing with the science of the sacred garden. So I'm overlapping the mind symbol over top of the zodiac to give people an idea of darkness and light, with the mind over the zodiac symbol. So the sacred garden is the divine enclosure, which is the mind. Okay, most people don't understand that the sacred garden is equivalent to the mind. It corresponds to the mind. So as we learn the sacred garden, we're learning our mind. And over on the right, it states that magic is transformation and growth. And underneath that is the will. The symbol for will is the right angle pointer. Okay. And this is about understanding that the will is about going from thoughts, emotions to actions. Now, in the sacred garden, it's about planting the thought into the emotion, which is cultivation, and then the action would be the fruition or the fruiting, the manifestation. Okay? So, understanding all the aspects of the bottom of the womb, so to speak, in the dark, earth, soil, roots, water, germination. This is all part of the internal garden. Okay, so learning the jargon of the garden helps us understand the mental garden, the sacred garden. Okay, so The internal plantation is really what you're looking at. And internal means within or inside, and plantation means to plant. So to plant within, okay, within the sacred garden. So this is the process of implanting or cultivating ideas, beliefs, or knowledge within the mind. Information or thoughts can be planted inside a person's psyche or consciousness and take root over time. So it's about cultivation of thoughts, emotions, and actions. And you are the guardian of your garden. And I really just quickly want to show you how this also works with karma, because I think most people understand the saying, reaping what you sow, to reap what you sow. Well, what does that mean symbolically? So karma being the right angle pointer, symbolized by the right angle pointer, is about behaviors to intelligent measurement to the consequence, right? So it's about sowing the behaviors and then intelligently measuring through the process of karma and then reaping, gaining the consequence of the behavior, whether that's good or bad. And obviously, most people associate bad behavior with consequence. So but there is good karma and bad karma, right? So karma means to act. It is the whole action. It's the whole process. So the whole circle that you see here is the wheel, okay? It is the circle. It's infinite. And that means it is boundary conditions, which equals natural law, the laws of nature. Okay, so the will and karma are intricately connected because the will is the driving force behind the actions that create karma. So our sacred garden, all of us, most of us in the world, has been hijacked for a very long time. Okay, and it's not just because of sorcerers either. Okay. So this is the enclosure enslavement, which is under man's law, the false law of nature, which is the internal slave plantation. So internal means within or inside, and slave means one who is controlled through coercion. And plantation means to plant. So to plant and cultivate fear within one's mind through the threat of violence if they don't do what they're told to do, if they don't obey, okay? Because they're in fear. So the process of implanting or cultivating ideas and beliefs in another's mind through fear. Information or thoughts can be planted inside a person's psyche and take root over time. And if ignored, it will lead to further enslavement. And that's absolutely true. And that's absolutely what's happening right now. So all a sorcerer has to do is instill and cultivate his or her mindset or will into another person for the desired outcome to manifest. And so a sorcerer thrives on people's ignorance, laziness, cowardice, negligence, and apathy. And if you don't control your own mind, someone else will. And I'll guarantee you, most of the people listening right now are under a form of mind control. But we have to become aware of this in order to have the mental power and the willpower to break out of this internal slave plantation and become the gardener of our own garden. You know, don't allow someone else to hijack our garden and become the gardener within, okay? You are the true gardener. Now, the ark is about steering the ship, the ark is the mind, okay? The ark symbolizes a sacred vessel that carries and protects something precious, whether it's divine teachings, life itself, or the soul itself. As a vessel, the ark can symbolize the soul or the spiritual journey as it holds what is most important and moves through time of trial, challenges, and purification. It is a container of sacred knowledge or truth that provides protection during difficult times. And right now, we are really going through a difficult time. So it is very important that you turn inward into your internal ark and pull out all that information out of your own ship onto the table to help others. Okay, become aware of your internal ark. Okay, so, and symbolism is how we can, help ourselves do this. So it's about taking back your control, steering your wheel, controlling your mind. And I'm going to leave you with this. This is all about your mental power as a solution, which is derived from the will. Okay, the power to conquer your ignorance, your laziness, your cowardice, your negligence, your apathy, because the only one to blame is the one in the mirror. So you have the power to turn that around and become one who actually learns and understands and unslaves the self from ignorance, to teach natural law, to teach morality, to teach the law of one or universal law, to teach people the difference between right and wrong. So that way we can evolve. That way we can unfold ourselves. That way we can take back the control of our own ship, which is the ark. So your mental power is the power to orient with the cosmos, okay? The ability to orient with the cosmos, the ability to align yourself willfully to the sun cycles, the lunar cycles, the stellar cycles, the planetary cycles, okay? Because this is about taking back the control from those who are controlling us through these cycles. So your mental power is the direction to freedom if you want it, okay? You have to become aware. You have to do the work. So with that, I thank you guys for making it through my presentation. And if you'd like to learn more, you can go to cubbyhole.com, listen to the podcast, and I really appreciate your time. Thank you.